What is the dumbest thing you've ever heard? My step-granddad's son-in-law went by slick. His feats of stupidity were too frequent to fully enumerate here, but some highlights include: is belief that cough drops only work indoors because the medicine they contain is neutralized by outdoor air. His attempt to house an leash-breaking armadillo in effort to impress his fancy cousins. His remark that the town wasted money replacing an obviously dilapidated bridge because it's been there for years and years. If it was going to collapse, it would have happened by now. I live in Germany, where people seem to think Africa is some kind of one-country abyss, and all the people are stupid, so Afrikaanish is often used to insult and belittle. Anyway, one day my son is at the playground, and this kid starts taunting him, calling him Afrikaanish, and all the other kids started joining and were black, and it was getting really nasty. Fortunately, my Nigerian husband was nearby but was away buying ice cream. He comes back to hear the taunts and seeing our son nearly in tears and asks what's going on. So this kid says to him, haha, you're Afrikaanish too. So my husband, who is a really chilled dude, casually licks his ice cream and says, yes, but you're clearly not German, so where are you parents from? The kid says boastfully, my dad is from Morocco. So my husband just said, then you're also Afrikaanish because Morocco is in Africa. There was a stunned silence, and an audible gasp, and the bo stutred.nno. So my husband said, then where is it? The bo couldn't answer. My husband just said, go and ask your dad. Afrikaanish. My husband said that when he said that Morocco was in Africa, some of other children actually moved away from the boy and stopped playing with him. Lol. Sad kids are taught such ignorance. One of my co-workers is a flat earther. The dumb thing about it is we are surveyors. Our job involves adapting data from a planar view flat paper maps to an ellipsoid geomodel GPS. The whole idea of satellites falling towards Earth through space, thereby circling the Earth on this mathematical model, only works if the Earth is round. Well, sort of round. Either way, my colleague works with GPS and still thinks the Earth is flat. He's either really dumb, or I will lose my house if we had to play poker. I used to work with a husband and wife. Absolute nightmare, would never recommend allowing a married couple to work together, and they were as thick as two shore planks. One of their aunties was elderly and seemed to struggle with everyday things. Their solution to this was that they needed power of eternity. This wouldn't have been so stupid if they said it once, but it was repeated daily for months. No one bothered to correct them because they were incredibly aggressive and toxic. I often wonder what they thought power of eternity actually was and what they would have done once they wielded such power. Knew a guy who hated cucumbers. Had an almost violently moral hatred towards them. But he loved pickles. It wasn't until he was well into adulthood that he found out what pickles were made from, and proceeded to have a crisis of faith. Edit. I may not have explained his reaction enough. It actually took him weeks to get past this. He literally wondered if he could let himself eat pickles ever again now, knowing they were made from cucumbers. Here's a good one. I used to work in a machine shop with lathes and mills. We were always told never to try to take off the shavings, burrs with the machine running, part spinning, or tool spinning. I now do carpentry. However, yesterday I was working with my coworker using a big dual magnet drill to drill some 2-inch holes in some 1/2 steel. As the bit was spinning and cutting the material, he reached over and tried to pull the burrs and shavings off the bit. I immediately stopped the machine as Andy explained that if the bit grabs his glove, he is in for a shitty time. He told me it's fine. I've done this plenty of times, not 5 minutes goes by. He repeats this and his glove is ripped off, his hand gets shredded by metal burrs and shavings. Moral of the story is, even if you've done something thousands of times, it takes that one time to fuck you for life. Before the eclipse, one of my coworkers asked me to explain the difference between the bright yellow thing and bright white things on the sky. I was speechless for a beat, then incredulously said the bright yellow one giving off light is the sun, and the bright white one is the moon. She said, well, how are they going to pass each other if one is to the right and one is to the left? I just hoped that she was asking because she wanted attention. No one is that stupid. I just got back from a trip to Cuba and two things come to mind. The people trying to watch the eclipse, and it was even slightly visible from our location. They were just staring at the sun. Also, the day we were on the beach and a large seabird was flying over the ocean. I said to the older woman we had met, I wonder what kind of bird that is. She legit tried to argue that it was a dodo bird. She would not believe that the dodo was extinct. I gave up arguing. I was with my ex-wife at the time, and we were watching the Neil deGrasse Tyson version of Cosmos, and he was talking about evolution. He used the example of selective breeding with wolves that eventually led to domesticated dogs we see today. My brain-dead ex-wife said, "Bullcrap, you're telling me two wolves mated and the female gave birth to a chihuahua." Blew me away. We were talking about having kids at a family party. My cousin's 17-year-old daughter made a comment about how she never wants to have kids, so she doesn't masturbate during her period. As a 50-year-old man, I shouldn't be engaging in such talk with a 17-year-old. But I couldn't understand this from any angle, so I asked what she meant and how that keeps you from getting pregnant. Her response was, "Well, uncle, I'm surprised you don't know this, but it's the only time your hormones can trick your body into thinking it had real sex, and you can get pregnant without a man." Before you hit me with the uncle-cousin discrepancy, this girl also believes that anyone within 10 years of her age is a cousin, more than 10 years older is an aunt, uncle, and more than 10 years younger is a niece, nephew. Ask her about that and she'll say, "That's how generations work." There are so many from her. If I remember more, I'll come back and edit. Oh yeah, and her parents don't correct her because it's useless once she gets an idea in her head. It's just an argument, even if you can prove it. So we only fight back on the ones that can hurt her. JFC. What a way to raise a kid. At school years ago, some girls were discussing about how eating chocolate during pregnancy would make your kid's skin darker. They were dead serious. I thought it would be funny to add to the conversation and said with a straight face and full of confidence, "You know, that's actually kind of true. If you eat a lot of carrots during pregnancy, the odds that your kid will have ginger hair is way bigger." I was joking then, added that was because of the orange pigments in the carrots. They believed me. Hard to keep a straight face. A girl I worked wanted to live in California or New Zealand. Didn't mind which as they are right next door and she can just pop to the other place. Same girl that wanted a Twilight tattoo at 30 and also a pet monkey. Also once during the conversation we were chatting shit about Justin Bieber and I mentioned he had a Batman logo on his car and she screamed at me that is his job. "You're only jealous." She was adamant that the film Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was based on real events. I don't know where Kelly is now as I've not worked with her in 10 years, but I'm sure she's out there, making everyone around her less intelligent. Worked as ocean rescue. Went out for a rescue and as I'm bringing the person I initially went out to get in, someone else is being sucked out to sea in the same rip. I swim over to the individual, she's like early 20s, and ask, "Are you okay?" And they go, "No, I can't swim." And I'm thinking to myself, you're in the Atlantic Ocean, a large body of water, and you can't swim. Whatever, grab on, and haul both of them back to shore. Years ago, I was a cashier at a grocery store. Like most grocery stores, they played music in the store. A Beatles song came on. To make casual conversation, I said to a customer, "Oh nice, the Beatles." The customer, in a completely earnest tone, said, "I don't listen to much American music." Now, if we want excuses, she was young, but I was probably the same age or younger than her at the time, about 19, and she was very clearly American by her accent and fashion sense. Maybe not dumb per se, but wildly culturally unaware. When I was a 9th grade biology teacher in the state of Georgia and taught evolution, I always started my classes by asking my students what they thought of when they heard the term evolution. It was a really great exercise to see what misconceptions they had. I got so many amazing responses. Some classics include the student who confidently stated, "Shit, we ain't come from monkeys," and I told her she was right but we would explain it more eloquently. The student who asked me if I was legally allowed to teach them about it, and I responded, "I am legally required to teach you about it, because it's science and it's true." I haven't been a teacher for 14 years, I will never forget those kids. That's you have to move to the mountains and hide and lock yourself away, cause the poles are going to switch and people are all going to get mad, and everything is controlled by artificial intelligence and we are all alien hybrids that already died anyway and got backed up and now watch on life on the cinema screen. A guy I worked with in a commercial kitchen freaked out because one of the cases of bananas has 8 bananas in the bunch. Like, freaked. It's illegal to sell 8 bananas at once. They can't do that. They need to take that back because they could kill someone. That's why it's illegal. It's not. I mean, it's not smart to eat 8 bananas a day all the time because they can cause hyperkalemia. But it's not illegal. He also was convinced that Gebush was working for the drug cartels and knew it for sure, since there's a video on YouTube of him doing crack with some of the Mexican cartel guys. This was about 2009. I want to say, in the last 15 years, Hope has grown up and smartened up. He was 19 when I worked with him, but I'm almost willing to lay money on him being a freedomber and possibly participating in the convo of the stupid. I suggested a friend take a further exit on the new highway to get home quicker when it was completed because it would shave half an hour off of her travel time. A few months later, we're on our way to a concert and she takes the wrong exit instead of the newer opened one. I'm like, WTF, going this way will make us late. Haven't you been taking the new exit home? She says with all seriousness, well, the new highway ends. I was afraid to hit the wall at the end. This chick had been taking a way that added 30 minutes to her travel from my house both ways. After me telling her the new exit was open months ago, we were 30 minutes late to the concert. A concert, I might add, that she had invited herself to by buying a ticket after she heard I had bought one. I never rode with her again. Both comments from the same dumbass doctor. First, if you had arthritis, you wouldn't have been able to walk through that door. Meanwhile, I was diagnosed many years ago and my insurance has been paying thousands every month for my biologics for years. Second, I've been blind in one eye from a cataract since I was about 1 year old. This dumb bitch literally had me close one eye and put fingers in front of my face, like I had just forgotten to look out of that eye for the 30 years I've been alive, and then said you don't look blind in that eye. Honestly, I have no idea where some of these people get their medical degrees. Dinosaurs never existed. Fossils are just rocks people carved to look that way. Jesus made land, it is inexhaustible. I brought up watching Apocalypto, and this same guy told me I shouldn't believe everything in it. I kind of agreed since a lot of that movie isn't historical fact or it's a mix of Aztec and Mayan civilizations, but then he went on to say those people never existed and white Europeans were actually there before Native Americans. I'm about to sound like a pretentious asshole here, but here we go. My roommate was dating this girl, who was just exceedingly not smart. Nice girl, but literally had no book smarts at all. Didn't know what a continent is. Didn't know who the first president was, couldn't point out our state on a map. It was literally the biggest turn-off to me. It made me realize how much intelligence was important to me, and that I was privileged to have gone to decent schools. But yeah, some of the stuff I heard her say just literally blew my mind. She had life skills and social skill, but literally lacked even basic elementary school knowledge. A 20-something once told me she didn't believe in evolution. About 5 minutes later, I discovered she was studying medicine. For anyone who doesn't know, the entire field of modern medical science is both predicated and reliant on the fact that evolution is true and ongoing. It wouldn't even exist without evolution. It's like saying you want to be a driving instructor, but you don't believe in the rules of the road or internal combustion. I was working during tourist season, and a lady asked if I could make an eggless breakfast sandwich because she's allergic to dairy. I personally hate eggs and made her a pretty plain dairy and poultry-free breaky sandwich. But the comment blows me away every time I think about it. It's poultry, not dairy. Does she think cows lay eggs? Does she think chickens have udders? Was she embarrassed of not liking eggs and just came up with a poor excuse? She also didn't mention the cheese or the mayo, but I made it without either to be safe and avoid poisoning her or receiving a complaint. It was very strange. Also, any anti-vaxxer, flat earther conspiracy theorist I've met, all of them say stupid things that are completely unrelated to their conspiracies.